Hey anyone, thank you for coming back to my channel. This is Visually Happening. I'm Victoria Harrington and this segment is Visually Speaking. So this was a completely unplanned, impromptu decision that I made as of last night / this morning to make a video today about my least to most favorite Best Picture nominees this year, because tonight is the Oscars, and this is a huge deal for me. I love watching the Oscars with my mom every year for as long as I can remember, and on that, in the last couple of years, I made it my own goal to watch every Best Picture nominee. And so for the last 2-3 years, I would compile which ones were my favorite, which ones my least favorite, and I would write it down, and it would be there for myself. But I figured now that I'm getting more and more into my channel, I'm starting to feel around like things I want to share or what I don't. This is something I felt like I would love to share. And so I'm going to share it with you now. A couple of things beforehand. From the top, I'm going to start with my least favorite and go down to my most favorite. That's one. I'm going to say a word that I feel best describes this film. These are going to be really brief. I actually wrote out an entire article with more grand detail, and I'll have the link down below. Number 4, this is going to contain major spoilers. It's hard for me to explain why I like a movie or why I don't like a movie without getting into the details. So bear that in mind. If you don't want to get certain things spoiled, so down below I will write out the list from 9 to 1, and I'll also, you know, put out a time code so that if you want to see a certain review without getting one before, one after spoiled, you'll know where to start and where to stop. And I believe that's it. So don't worry, this is going to be super brief, and let's get started. So at number 9, I want to start with The Shape of Water. The word I would use to describe this film would be fanatical. And those are, for obvious reasons, why I'd pick that word, because of the nature of the story. But it isn't just the nature of the story. It's the entire environment of the story as well. I've never been to Baltimore in the 60s, so I don't know what it looks like. But from what I've seen in the movie, it is gloomy, it is cold, but it's also very beautiful, it's also very vintagey, and I got a huge pleasure in the actual visual effects of it. The acting was on point. I love Michael Shannon. Like, anything he's in, I look forward to. He just got that very dry sense of humor, and he didn't disappoint in this one at all. The reason why it is at the bottom of my list is because, plain and simple, I found the movie to be blatantly predictable. It's a very, you know, I'll absolutely give credit where credit's due. It's super hard to create an original story, but some of the things thrown in there were just so insanely, like, I don't even need to watch the rest of the movie now because I know what's going to happen. As soon as they mentioned the gill slits on her neck, it was like, alright, okay. So, alright, I guess I can stop watching now. And that was like halfway through the movie. So that part annoyed me. There were certain just like plot holes, and so I found that annoying, and once that happened, I was kind of turned off from the rest of the movie. Number 8, well, for me, it is Call Me By Your Name. And the one word I would use to describe this movie is romantic. To me, it's not just romantic between the two lead characters, as much as it is a romantic story between them. I also found it to be a romantic story of Italy itself. If you've ever watched any sort of European type movies, you get a vibe, you get a feeling of this old world coming to life, and they do it beautifully in Call Me By Your Name. I mean, clearly it's in Italy, it's an Italian director, but they, oh God, it was so beautiful to look at. Every single scene, I was enamored. I was totally into it. You know, every piazza, every breakfast, every bike ride they took, it was absolutely stunning to look at. But the reason why it is at my number 8 spot is because it was a really long movie, and I am absolutely all for building character and not letting anything happen like too fast, but it was a very slow build-up, and I can appreciate it. It's not like it was necessarily a bad thing to me. It was just I found myself checking my phone a lot for how much time was left in the movie, and you never ever want to do that. It completely, you know, takes you out of the fantasy and back into reality, and that's the whole point of watching a film is undivided attention. So for me, the fact that it got to that point disappointed me a little bit, but that's really that. So number 7 for me is Darkest Hour. It was another gorgeous film. The one word I would use to describe Darkest Hour is choreography. And the reason why is because there was this type of dance between camera and person. It was so interesting to watch. In most films, there's a ton of over-the-shoulder shots, like back and forth for a conversation or a dialogue. And in this one, there were, from a lot of the dialogues, there were a lot of long shots, and it was really just beautiful to look at, and it was a real pleasure to watch. It's at number 7 because a lot of based on a true story films, there are pockets of boredom, and I personally felt that there were a good amount of pockets of boredom. The first hour was where I checked my phone the most, but it got better as it went on. Number 6 is The Post. The word I would use to describe The Post is pressure. For the most obvious reason was because Meryl Streep and her team had a lot of, had this weight of what to do with this information, and do we release it to the public or not? And so pressure was used for that. I mean, what can you really say? It's Meryl Streep, it's Steven Spielberg, it's Tom Hanks. Anything with them individually and then together, of course it was going to be a good movie. There was nothing in particularly striking to me except for Meryl Streep's character's progress from lack of confidence to confident. It was a beautiful type of story to watch, to unfold. I did heavily enjoy it. It was another one where the first hour I was like, alright, I get it, you're making me hit the ground running. As it progressed, I definitely felt more and more drawn to it. I didn't want to stop watching, and that was really that. It didn't like grab me by the throat and make me want to watch. It was just a really great film to watch, if that makes any sense at all. Next, number 5 goes to Lady Bird, and the one word I would use to describe Lady Bird is identity. And I mean, for pretty obvious reasons, this is a coming-of-age tale. I absolutely love coming-of-age movies. They're very particular and sensitive to me, so I knew I was going to enjoy this. And on top of that, it was a coming-of-age story in the early 2000s, and I was a teenager in the early, almost mid 2000s, so for me it felt even more like something that I would like, and I absolutely enjoyed it. I loved watching Lady Bird's struggles and triumphs and heartbreaks and discoveries. It was beautiful to watch. My biggest issue was Laurie Metcalf's character. I get the means of contrast between the two of them. She was just extremely hard to watch, and hats off to Laurie for that, because obviously, I mean, she's doing something right. But it was really hard for me to feel for her, and that really it bummed me out that like I couldn't kind of find myself rooting for her. I don't know what the hardened issue is. Maybe I have to watch it again. I don't know, but that's the reason why it's at number 5. Number 4 for me was Phantom Thread, and the one word I would use to describe the movie is perfect. And it's not a word me, myself, think of when I look at it, but for me, it's what the characters are all striving for, and that's why I would use that word. For me, it was actually, I enjoyed it. There's pretty bad reviews on it, but I personally didn't hate it. I thought it was funny. There was certainly some decently funny moments that softened it up a bit, which was nice, considering that's a very posh sort of Old English environment. It's at number 4 because it could have went to 2 or 3, but it's at 4 because the ending just was like ridiculous. She's poisoning you and you're completely fine with it, it irked me so much that he ended up knowing about it and stayed with her, and she was crazy. And it's annoying because like from the beginning he said that this is what he didn't want any sort of marriage, and she at first was like, alright, totally, me too, and then tries to change his mind. First I hate him, then I hate her, and then I hate both of them. Because I enjoyed most of the movie like way, like 90% of the movie. The last 10%, that's why it's at number 4. Number 3 is Dunkirk. Dunkirk was so cool to watch. It was such a cool movie. The word I would use to describe Dunkirk was anticipation. Everything about it, every character went through some sort of antsy moment or moments that they continuously had to go through. I felt it along with them. One of the very genius ways that Christopher Nolan made me and the viewers feel it was how the sound amplified each important moment. It was so, everything was so scary as it was happening. The sound of it just, you know, bumping through your chest. It was really, really an incredible piece of cinema. My biggest con with it was that some of the sound overpowered some of the audio, which overpowered some of the dialogue, which made it hard for me to understand what they were saying. Number 2 is 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, which means that number 1 is Get Out. But I will get to that in a second. So the one word I would use to describe 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is hostility. It is the driving force with every single character in it. It's Frances McDormand's driving force. It's even Chief Willoughby's and Deputy Dixon, all Woody Harrelson and Sam Rockwell. It's everyone's driving force, which makes all the jokes they tell, as dark or as deep as they may be, something that's like, oh my gosh, should I even laugh at this? Like it was crazy like that. It was really dark. It was really interesting. It was funny, and it was moving, and it was scary, and it was real. It was a very raw film, and I absolutely loved it. My teeny tiny con with it is how it ended. It broke my heart into 1,000 pieces that Sam Rockwell's character, while he was trying to make a better name for himself and redeem himself, and found the guy that might have been Angela's killer, and it wasn't him. And that just, like, I get that we get snuffed a lot in life, but it was just so hard to watch, and it was so disappointing for his character. And then he and Frances McDormand, they bond on, let's just go kill the guy anyway, because if it's not her, then it's someone else. And I get it, that's fine. It just felt very like, that sucks and that blows. So that's why 3 Billboards is at number 2, which is why, and it brings me to number 1 for me was Get Out. And Get Out was, the one word I would describe Get Out is intention. And the reason why is because every single action, every single thing that was said, every single look, every detail of it was met with intention. Like there was nothing that was done that was a head scratcher at the end of it. Get Out is the shortest running time out of all the ones, and the reason why is because there is no fluff in it whatsoever, which brings me back to the intention, and I appreciate that so much. Off the top of my head, I can't think of one, but I'm sure there might be a few, but for the most part, almost everything about it came back in full circle. There was hardly any, like, what about that, what about that? It was, most of it was explained. To me, all of it was explained. I'm sure there might be something I'm missing, but to me, all of it was explained, and it was so well done. For the sake of argument, the con I'll give it is that I don't understand why Chris fell into Missy's hypnotism so quickly, but I've never been hypnotized, so hey, I really can't speak on that. That is my, my very, it's a little long, but my very, as brief as I could, reviews on this year's Best Picture nominees. I very much want Get Out to win. I have a teeny tiny feeling that 3 Billboards might win, so quote me on that if I'm right. Don't quote me on that if I'm wrong. So that's really it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy your night, whether you watch the Oscars or not. And I'll be back soon with another video. Until then, take care if you can, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.